All right, so you'll want to go to that link that I have in the graphics app section there, and you should see this. Then you open it up, and it's pretty basic. So over on the left is the toolbox, and in the center is the canvas. Let me see if I can zoom in. I did a little bit. All right. A little shortcut that's actually zooming in the view on the window and not the software, or actually the app here, whatever it is. So when you go to get started, you can follow along now and just play, but when you go to do the assignment in there, there's a little orange tab up here that says File on it. You're going to click on that, and you're going to go New Image. And that's going to bring this up, and this is where you can put the width and height in. Okay. Now, if you didn't do that, and you go, oops, it needs to be a certain size, then you're going to go back to the tab again, come down here where it says Image Size, and you have the same thing pop up. So you can change it in here, and it will change your canvas that's out there. All right. All righty. So, first off, let me describe the difference between a paint program and a draw program. Paint program, also known as a raster program and also known as a bitmap program, uses the pixels to generate the images. Okay, so it's the brightness levels we talked about. Well, so this kind of program, such as Photoshop, which is primarily a paint program, allows us to work with photographic images. Okay, makes for larger file sizes, but we have blending modes, we have filters, all kinds of cool stuff that we can do in a paint program. A draw program, also known as a vector program or an object-oriented program, uses anchors. We can think of those as points, and vectors, lines between the points to generate the files. So think of the graphs that you've made where you put a little plot on and or you put a point, an X and Y coordinate, you put another X and Y coordinates, and you drew a vector or a line between the 2 points. Well, that's how a draw program works. And so it uses math, remember that 4-letter word, to describe the images, makes for small file sizes, also makes for files that can be enlarged or reduced without any loss of quality. It could be very scalable. All right, so some of this is kind of a combination of the two, and that's why I brought them up here. So looking at this, the first one is a selection. And in Photoshop, one of the first things you do is teach the various means for making selections of things in the images. This one only has a rectangle selection, and that works a little odd, but that's what it is. The next one is a pen tool. So when I choose this, you're going to see up here, sometimes this is called the option bar in some software programs. Sometimes it's a control panel. And it allows you to make choices up here. The size of the line, its opacity, and over here, the style of it. So you can try some. I've not tried fur out yet. I have no idea what that's going to do. So that'll kind of be fun. And know that this is going to paint with this color. And we'll get to colors in a little bit. So you just draw, right? Now I can take this selection and I can grab this whole thing and move it. Okay. Now the weirdness, you don't have a freeform selection like you would in Photoshop called a lasso to come around and select just this one. You can select a portion of this. I can also hit the delete key and remove that selection. All right, the next is a brush, and this one has a whole bunch of possibilities, stars and all kinds of weird stuff. Again, you can try, here's some butterflies. Let's see what happens here. Oh, there we go. Okay, that was interesting. All right, so I'm going to do Command A on your PC or Chromebook. It's Control A, which is select all. This is pretty universal in any graph software. And hit the delete key, and that will remove what I put on here. Okay. Now I can also, let's go back to, no, that doesn't really matter. I can drop down a couple of tools. We'll come back to this one. This is the eraser tool. So I can come in and erase. And I'm actually, no, I can't. Okay. So we see how that works. And you have different sizes of your erasers, so we can make it a little smaller so you can get in works of detail here if you want. All right, next tool is the shapes tool. And up here are the various shapes that you have options to. Okay. And we also have the ability to change the opacity of it. I'll come back to that a little bit later, and the border size. Okay. This is going to fill the shape with this color. Now, in a draw program like Illustrator, you have these colors like this, not these particular colors, but they're called the fill and the stroke. The stroke is like the border on a box. In fact, in this program, they call it the border. You'll see it says color gradient of the border. In this case, we don't have a border. I'll make one a little bit later here. All right, so with this shape, I can make rectangles. Holding the shift key down creates a square. Now, this is pretty universal, again, for graphics programs, holding the shift down to constrain it to that. Same with this tool. Well, I had that selected. Notice how it changed it here. This is the ellipse tool. Not that it doesn't look like a circle, because it's really the ellipse tool, but holding the shift key down also creates a circle. There are other ways in some programs that constrain other tools, such as the line tool using the shift key. Not to get too carried away here. All right, I'm skip this one and this one. I'm going to come down here. This is kind of cool. This is the fill color. We also have the gradients over here, so you could try this out. And I haven't even looked at the pattern yet. There's the patterns. Oh, those are cool. Look at that. So the color is here, right? In fact, normally when I do lessons on color, we look at something called a color picker. That's found in most or all the Adobe products. And it demonstrates the three components of color: hue, saturation, and brightness. Think of hue as the rainbow. Saturation is this way, fully saturated. And we can actually look at the numbers over here to see that. And up and down is the brightness. Okay, so we won't get into this big time. That really gets you overwhelmed today. So, all right, same thing here. If we want to have a border color, so let's make this one blue. Okay, so we have this for the fill. We just have this for the border. And I'm going to choose a rectangle again. This time I'm going to increase the border size. And notice now we have the fill and the stroke or the border for this one. Let's drop down the opacity. And I'm going to create another shape. And I should have did it the other way. That's all right. Let me do it this way. Okay, so that one has that opacity. I'm going to come back and select this other one. Notice I'm using that selection tool. And it's not going to let me do it. All right, I'll just draw another one. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to come back and make this one have opacity. So I have to do it in that order. We don't have a way to change the layering of them, the stacking order of these. So now we see we have this transparent box on top of this one. All right, moving on. The last couple of things. We have a way to import an image here. So click on that and go find your graphic and bring it in. And then the following one is a text tool. Now, you have to be careful here. I set some type over here and the thing went off and I couldn't capture the rest of it. So click somewhere here and type in what you want, okay? And then you can come over and work with different typefaces here. They have a limited amount. There's not too much here. And the size of it. Okay, and whether or not you want a border. And then we can select this thing again and move it where you want. So it's a little awkward in moving some of the things around. You use that selection tool for that. All right, let's assume that you are done with this. You're going to export it out. So we're going to go once again to the little orange icon up here, click on that, and down here it says export. Now I'll tell you right now, it's going to export it out without giving you a dialog box, so you don't get to name it. It's going to call it export.png. So you may need to do a little search to find where that file is. At least do a search that's export. Because if you do several of these, might be export2.png, export3.png, that kind of thing.